Welcome back to yet another weekly episode of the Off the Tools podcast. As usual, your host, Wayne Bettis and Andy Jones. Welcome, Andy.
What up?
Still haven't got the sound effects. They're going to come. I just haven't got around to ordering the soundboard. So today, controversial statement, but you don't need more leads. You just need to do this instead. Are you intrigued? Have we caught the attention of all of you guys out there that only have a 20-second attention span? I'm sure many of you can and do listen for longer. That was a very bad generalization, and you should never generalize. Right. Let's get straight into it.
Tension. Lack of.
It did. Yeah, definitely. But as people watching and listening to this, you know, people can stay engaged when they are interested in the subject. And today is definitely an interesting subject. In the last 8 to 10 years, the amount of times I have seen thousands of different companies pop up, generating lead generations, and, you know, and everyone that comes in at the early stages, that first thing is, oh, we need more leads. We need more leads. When ultimately, right, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, right, if I was to drop 20 new leads into your lap today, the chances are 95%, the 5% of the guys in Off the Tools Alliance, obviously, wouldn't be able to facilitate a good customer experience for that customer. And the likelihood, they might win a couple of the jobs, but the likelihood is they'd get overwhelmed, wouldn't get back to people, and it would fall to shit. So more leads isn't the answer for most companies. And that's what we're talking about today, isn't it, Andy?
It is. It's absolutely a hot topic at the minute. There's so much talk online on the forums about lead generation, what platforms are good, Google Ads, Check a Trade, SEO, etc., etc. Then to throw a little curveball in it as well, there's also a lot of talk about pivoting, the lads pivoting what they're doing into something else because they've got, you know, too big of a pot to fill because they're not converting enough of what they were traditionally doing, or not getting enough leads for what they're traditionally doing. So it talks about aircon and heat pumps and things like that. But in reality, they're just not managing their existing customer base or their existing lead flow efficient enough.
Yeah, I what annoys me, right, is the amount of companies that promise leads. And yes, that is a skill set. Yeah, but ultimately, for most people, it's not the right time to be plowing thousands into lead generation when there's so much foundational work that needs to be done, you know, and it baffles me that people think that they can just throw money at the problem and generate more and more and more leads when all of the basics aren't in place. So should we sort of dive into, you know, why we feel people are losing out on so much potential?
Yeah, so I've got a couple of points that I've noted here. So the initial one really is that first impression. So what is the customer's first impression, whether it's a fresh lead through a recommendation, a fresh lead through lead generation platform, or a returning lead for someone you've worked with before. The common failing really, and this is again a little bit more directed to the guys working on their own, because we'll get into why that can be rectified with additional staff in a minute. But if you initially, it starts with not even answering the phone because you're on the job. That's the first big problem, isn't it? And, you know, you'll have all heard me talk about many times about, you know, you just mentioned attention span. It's kind of the same thing. Customer will ring, you don't answer the phone, they'll ring someone else. They don't answer the phone, they'll ring someone else until they get to someone who will answer the phone. If you've got maybe someone who's a little bit more, perhaps they're a returning customer, so they're more likely to try again. Or even if it is a fresh lead, some people are more willing to try again. I'll give them a little bit of time, I'll ring them again. But then let's say you do answer the phone, but you're on a job. There's banging, there's clattering, or you answer the phone while you're driving, you're unable to make a note of anything like that. Things like this are all poor first impressions, and obviously a slow response time if you don't answer straight away. But initially, it's that poor first impression. To put it on the other end of the scale, if you have someone in place dedicated to answering the phone, whether that's a VA, an AI system, or an in-house admin team, that first impression then is just skyrockets. So not only are they going to answer the phone straight away because that's their job, the impression is going to be better straight away. They're going to answer the phone better than you can. It's going to be a more polite voice. Again, I've spoke many times about it's both my opinion and also the stats show that women are better in that position. Women's voices are more what's the word?
Trusting, I guess, friendly.
Yeah, just more inviting, aren't they? And more
warmer.
Warmer. Let's go with warmer. The warmer and the more, people are more inclined to have a conversation, that they appreciate it more. And again, this is personal tracked data from in my business as well as the stats. And then obviously the customers got what they wanted really, which is someone answering the phone straight away. So that straight away puts you further ahead, massively further ahead to converting it. But even if you are driving along in the van and you answer the phone straight away, the reality is people are becoming less accepting of that kind of business now. And yeah, as a result, this is going to start to affect your conversion rate. So like Wayne said, you could get 20 fresh leads that ring in today. But if you're missing the calls or answering when you're not in the right environment, then you're not going to actually be able to convert them leads as effectively.
Yeah, I agree massively. It starts with the initial communication, doesn't it? How does that frame your business? If you're rumbling along in a rattly van, they can hardly hear you because you're on loudspeaker. You can't take any notes down because you're driving. You tell them that you're going to call them back and then you forget because you get busy. That first impression, you only get one chance at making that first impression, don't you? So you compare the traditional way of being in a job or driving and answering that phone compared to someone sitting in a calm, nice environment, a softer, friendlier voice on the end of that phone. And more importantly, not only that initial impression there, but the initial first few minutes of that call, they're going to get the attention that they deserve. That customer is ringing you with a problem. You are a solutions-based business, by definition. They want to know that they're being listened to. They want to know that someone is there to help them. And you compare the sole trader on the van, while he's driving down the motorway, ladders rattling, compared to a nice calm voice in the office, someone that's asking questions, that's interested, that's helpful, that then can obviously progress that conversation into actually taking action. Because ultimately, again, back to the attention span thing, that customer at the end of the phone just wants an answer to their problem. So by the end of that first phone call, we should all be aiming to have that job booked in, or at least provide part of that solution, whether it be that it needs a quote, whether it be that they just needed a bit of advice. And that sets the tone. If you can answer the phone and you can get that job dealt with and booked in, the customer then starts to feel happy with you, and then that trust and that rapport starts to build. Then obviously you go on to the next levels where they then get confirmations of them appointments and all of the stuff that we've talked about over the 20 odd episodes since Andy joined and the 100 odd episodes before. It all starts to layer in trust. And ultimately, if a customer is spending money, they need to be able to trust you. And these are like fundamental to any business, but even more so, I'd probably say if you can't guarantee that the phone is answered and dealt with efficiently, you shouldn't be spending money on advertising, because you are literally just wasting fucking money.
It's again, something we spoke about many times, which is that some guys might look at it as an unfortunate reality. As business owners, we would look at it as a fortunate reality, which is that the game is different. The game has changed, or the playing field has changed, if you will, and people, less and less people will suffer the old way of doing things now, which is ring a guy, local guy. They maybe got the mate told them about, give him a ring. He's decent, he's cheap, and they'll ring him and he doesn't answer and they'll hang fire. People just won't suffer for that anymore, and that's you need to get on board with the new stuff. And I know a lot of the guys say, "Oh, I don't really want to build a proper business," but that's from their angle the unfortunate reality of the situation. If you don't, like as mentioned before, we're constantly hiring in our heating business. 80% of the applicants are currently self-employed.
Yeah.
That says so much, doesn't it? Like about where
it sums up the current sort of economic. Yeah.
You get on board or you fall behind. That's just the reality of it. Because then it moves into the next step of that conversion issue, which is a quoting system or a quoting software. A lot of the job management softwares have them in place. Obviously, it's no secret that we're massive fans of a software called Quotient. Pretty much all the lads in the Alliance using Quotient. This is such an effective system, whether it's Quotient or another quoting system software. Sorry, it's an effective system for conversion because it instantly builds authority. So if the phone gets picked up straight away, the conversation starts, or what you're looking to have done, or we're looking for a boiler service, right? No problem. If you just open your emails, you'll find an email from us. If you open that up, it's a quote from us. So again, rather than the answering the phone, it's X amount for a boiler service, and then that's the end of it. This has a physical quote. It tells them, like say the lads use it in Alliance, it's telling the customer what they do, how long they're on site, what's included, certification, burner gaskets, etc. And that instantly then takes you up another notch on the ladder. Then Wayne just mentioned, if they then do book in, they then get booking confirmations. At that stage in the journey, let's say this is a brand new lead into the business. If somebody then, let's say one of the guys that they rang initially before ringing like one of the lads in the Alliance's companies, then rings them back, they're then left with, and again, analogy I've used many times, which is they've not got to now compare apples and oranges, because another guy will have rang them back 3 hours later, whatever it is. We can do a boiler service for, let's say 80 quid when they've been quoted 150. They're now in a difficult position now, because they go, actually, I can go with this guy for 80 quid, but he didn't have an office person. He didn't send me a written quote. He didn't, even for something as simple as a boiler service, he didn't book me into this job management software. He's saying he can do it for 70 quid and he'll be there Tuesday afternoon. So that's the change in the time now. Yeah. So that feeds back into the conversion. It's like, well, actually, you're a lot cheaper, but are you going to convert? Because the other company that you're now competing with has built value around the conversion process, because they've built value around the individual components outside of the job. And that's something, again, is we're constantly talking to the lads in the Alliance about that. In these modern times, I've said before, 50-50 split now, really, between work done on site and the work that's wrapped around it. So if you're not doing all of these things that we're talking about, you could be the best looking engineer in the world, but if you're only doing that bit of the journey, then you're only going to be able to provide 50% value. Doesn't matter if one of the, like, say, the companies in the Alliance, if their guys are doing the work and it's only 40% has got on site, but then they're bringing another 50% worth of job value wrapped around it, that's still 90% versus your 50%.
Yeah.
strange breakdown on the numbers, but that's an easy way to sort of split it down. If you're not getting
I've
on board,
had a real life example of this week. You know, I've been getting some fence quoting, and you know, I've had 2 so far, right? And I'll tell you quickly the experience. So the first guy reached out straight away. I put it in the local village group, and he messaged me directly. Then he got booked in. You know, he rang me on the way to the job. So he weren't using software, so there's room for improvement, but I'm just sharing it. He then gave me the quote there and then as well. In like while he was looking at it, he calculated it, gave me the price. Was nice and friendly and all of that sort of stuff. Then he followed up with a message just to confirm it all. So he did everything we're speaking about, but in a manual way. So great, you know, but not scalable. But then I compare it to the second guy, who technically I think would probably do the job better, but it took me 3 days to get him to commit to coming round. Then he turned up late. Then I'm now waiting. What day? When did he come? He come Monday. So we're now Wednesday as we're recording this, and I still haven't had the quote, you know, although technically, you know, I looked at his reviews and everything. He's the better business, you know, but all of the back end of it just weren't there, you know. So who am I more likely to go with? The person that I had a very smooth, easy journey with, or the person that I'm still waiting on the quote? I've got a third one that literally still hasn't narrowed down a time to come down, you know, so he's obviously getting edged further and further away. But it just goes to show that the journey that as a customer experiences carries so much weight. And another example, we had a inquiry for an unvented cylinder come in. Okay, office answered it. I went out 2 hours later. I gave them the quote within an hour with a couple of options. So basically within a 5-hour period, we had made a 2,400, I think the job value was, sale. That isn't just based on his research of my company. That is based on the way the phone was answered, the way that we got out quickly, the way that we sent online on-way text, the way we sent the quote out within an hour with options so they could choose what to spend. That whole experience is what won that sale. He could have got that unvented cylinder installed for £1,000 cheaper, probably. You know, someone would probably throw in a smaller cylinder, lash it in, connect up to the old overflow from the vortex cylinder rather than running the PRV and all of that. But he chose to spend the more money with the company that made his life and his journey experience good. So I cannot emphasize the importance of, you know, that customer journey, which for some people, you know, a lot of people that watch this and listen are subscribers to the podcast, right? So a lot of you will have heard us talk about this a lot. But if you're new, this might be the first time. This might be the first time you've heard that word, customer journey. And a little task, right? I don't do this often, but I think it's very, very important that every now and then you take time to think about that journey that customer goes on in your company. So take the next job that comes in, write it down, just literally just on a pen and paper if you need to. Just write down how the call was answered, when you got back to them, you know, what they experienced. And then from that, that's your current blueprint, which will need improvement. And you can just look at them steps and go, right, how can I improve that? Right. I didn't answer the phone. They left the voicemail. It took me 3 hours to get back to them. Right. Problem number 1, let's solve that. Problem number 2 was that I couldn't get out to them because I've stacked the diary with low value jobs that I don't like doing. And whatever it might be, you can start to nitpick at every step. Even if you are doing a lot of the good stuff, there is always a way to improve. Like that quote in person, right? I know a lot of people frown against that. And I think it's sort of like, it was popular back in the day. Then it sort of got phased out because people felt people were ripping them off. But now back to that impatience and that attention span, people now want to get answers very, very quickly. So I feel that excuse me, that if there's a way to provide a well drawn up quote with options, not pushy, I'm not saying go fucking old school double glazed salesman styley, but if you can present it, explain it, and then leave them with it, you know, that alone I think could massively spike your conversion rate, build trust as well, because then if you show confidence when you're providing a quote, if you show confidence in what you're doing, the pricing that you're doing, that oozes out in your aura. The customer will trust you far more if you can do that than if it takes you 3 days to get back to them and it comes through on a scraggly email that looks crap or whatever, you know, like whatever everyone else is doing. So don't underestimate giving a price in person. I know it can be a little bit daunting, but they've asked you for the quote 9 times out of 10. Yeah, the odd, obviously sometimes it might be that it's a breakdown, but ultimately that customer needs a quote. So the sooner you can provide that quote with confidence, the better, isn't it?
Yeah. And that doesn't have to be in person. That can be using a quoting software or using the quoting facility within your job management software, such as what ServiceMate has. Because again, for the quoting, what the lads in Alliance are using, it tracks the because it's not. This is the problem. If you send an email to someone or a text quote or written quote on a piece of paper, then you don't know how engaged that customer is, and you can't have a conversation with them. Using something like Quotium, because it isn't an email, it's a live web hosted quoting software. They get an email about it, but then when they click to open it, it actually takes them to a live website. It shows them how many times, it shows you as the business owner how many times they've opened it. It shows them they can use the communication facility within it if they've got any questions. And it's part of the customer journey. It's making it as simple as possible. If they have a question, that you put on the gas safety checks, well, what does that include? And then someone in the office can say, oh, that's a tightness test that we do on every boiler service, or that's electrical testing that we do. Once we've swapped all your sockets, we'll do a test on all of the circuit or whatever it might be. So that's, again, part of the customer journey. And I'll say this time and time again. I know a lot of you guys don't want to admit it. They don't want to accept it. And, you say, I've done all right until now. But the landscape is changing so fucking much that if you don't get on board with this, I cannot, those are not made up numbers. 80% of people looking for jobs in the trade game are currently self-employed. But shit's just not working anymore. And if it's not working anymore, it's not the game. It's not the game's fucked. It's not a race to the bottom. It's not bots taking all your work. You know what I mean? It's just you're no longer competitive because the landscape is so fucking different. You can't just, like that experience you've just had. You can't make someone wait 3 days anymore to do a site visit. People won't do it. People won't wait for it. They won't stand for it. People are impatient as fuck. There's no customer loyalty anymore. People value, this is a common thing on the forums as well. Oh, my customers, I've had my customers for 10, 20 years. They're loyal. I've got news for you. They're fucking not, because they value their own time over you. That's, who doesn't? They value their own time. If you mess them around, ain't no customer loyal enough to wait. If you don't answer the phone and then you don't answer it again, then you don't ring them back. That's it. They're going to go somewhere else. You might get on with them. You might have a good relationship with them. But at the end of the day, it needs to be a business relationship primarily, which means you doing a good job for the customer outside of the physical work. Obviously quite passionate about that because it's such a hot topic at the minute, which is, we're just trying to drill into it really, that just, like you said at the beginning, Wayne, if you give someone another 50 leads per week, it's not going to have an impact on their business. If you give them 50 leads, especially if you give them 50 leads of a certain demographic, without getting too complex into it, a lot of the lads in Alliance and our businesses do this as well. We have a preferred target audience now of busy people who are busy, maybe both parents working, they've got kids, young kids, very demanding home life. They're the people that ain't going to wait for the guy like you just explained. That guy who still hasn't turned up, he ain't getting the job now because it was tough shit, it's gone, the other guy's done it. Whereas, these older school guys, they're more likely to secure an elderly customer who's not in much of a rush, they're not busy, they're at home all day, they probably would wait for that guy. But what's the reality is, like, elderly people, or the age bracket for elderly people, is actually getting squeezed. You know, my parents are in the 70s, but they're still pretty busy people. You know, they have my boys a few times a week. They're doing their own thing. They like to go out for walks and for food and stuff like that. So they're busy people, and they had a similar experience to you when they were getting some roofing work done. The same thing, they got messed around. What the guy that won the job, okay, he was manually doing it like you just explained, but he won the job because they got fed up trying to get all. They ring them once. It's like, so the reason I mention that is this window of elderly customer who'll give you a cup of tea and some biscuits while you're doing the job is being squeezed. Like it's 80 plus now, realistically.
I agree. Yeah. People are, they're staying busier later, aren't they? In 100%, life.
100%.
Yeah. It's what was it? I was just about to say something, and then my mind went completely blank there. What was
me that waffling now?
It's gone. I've completely lost the next train of thought that I was going to go down. But the other thing, I guess, that sort of couples up, not I guess, I know, is that was it. It's come back. I remember. Back to the point of giving you 50 leads, right? That doing it in a manual way is better than not doing it. Of course it is, right? But that just proves the point that that level of service wouldn't be able to be provided if I dropped 30, 50 leads into a business if they're still doing it manually. That's when software and the foundations of the business really show. So like if you're on Checker Trade and you're spending 500-600 quid and you're picking up 10 leads a week or whatever it breaks down to, but you're not maximizing all of that because you can't provide that ideal journey should be achieved 99% of the time. There's always going to be the odd time and stuff that happens, but you go to a cinema, right? You expect a level of cleanliness, you expect a level of food availability. You know, that journey for a brand is pretty consistent. Yeah, sometimes machine break and whatever, so you get the variance here and there. But McDonald's, you know, Starbucks, all of these places, they run by providing that customer with a similar high level of customer journey. And unfortunately, doing things manually without systems, without processes, and without a conscious effort to that journey means that there's just inconsistencies, which is why you see on like Facebook forums and that someone will be like, oh, Dave the plumber's brilliant, but then someone else will be like, oh, Dave was shit, he never got back to me. And you know, and so adding more leads on just puts more strain and highlights the bad experiences. So you can actually be detrimental to your business by adding leads if you're not providing a consistent service to people. That was the point I was trying to make, and that evaded me. Sorry. Sorry for the stuttering.
the McDonald's is the great analogy of that. And I remember someone said this to me quite some time ago in the business world of McDonald's. The thing with McDonald's is it's shit. You know it's shit, but you know exactly what you're getting.
But it's consistently,
isn't it? Like it's consistently shit, but you know exactly what you're getting. So that's why most people go. You don't go because it's a delicious meal. You go because you know exactly what you're going to fucking get.
Yeah. I heard on a podcast the other week, right, that Donald Trump, right, random. So he eats, obviously when he's at home and in his own environment, he eats all the best of the best, right? But when he's out in the world, like doing his whatever he does, he eats fast food because it's safe, because he knows that it's not going to be a dodgy bit of chicken from like a boutique restaurant. So he will eat fast food places when he's traveling because of that consistency. He knows that there's a level of standard that is going to be there. Yes, it's not the most nutritious. Yes, it's not best, but it just a funny sort of correlation with what we're talking about.
You eat food from a big chain like McDonald's.
You're pretty safe that you're not going to wake up with a deli belly, aren't you? You eat it from the little family independent restaurant that might be amazing, but for whatever reason, the cleanliness that day didn't, or the source of the meat wasn't quite where it would normally be. You know, there's a lot of variance in it, isn't it?
Yeah.
In a small place rather than a, and that's what ultimately we want to strive to, is being consistent. There's no point being great one day and shit the next day, you know, because you undo all of that hard work. You'd be better to be 70% good consistently, you know, and provide that baseline, whether you're an economy level, you know, and you might do lower end quick in and out jobs. Be consistent at that. Whether you're at high end and you do amazing mitre cut tiling in bathrooms and all the fancy stuff, be consistent at what your market needs, you know. And there's no right or wrong. There's money to be made at every step of the ladder, you know. Like look at Lidl compared to M&S. You know, they're both making bank, aren't they? You know, but they're both serving completely different. You go in a Lidl, you're not expecting a first class experience, are you? And a first class level of quality. You're expecting what you go in there for. You go into M&S or whatever, like or Ocado or whatever it might be, your expectations are higher. But both companies make money. Well, actually, random fact: Ocado are actually losing money. They've lost money for the last 5 years. I think they're just basically doing like an old school market capture to sell it in the future. Just a random fact that me and my son looked up because we were interested in their business model. So we spent some time looking at it. Anyway, went off subject there. Part of that, all of that experience obviously is reviews. Yeah. In today's review climate, you know, people expect to see reviews. I know we've spoke about it. I don't know if we spoke about it publicly, but there is more of a shift from the amount of reviews now. I think speed and efficiencies are starting to, you know, outweigh the amount of reviews. But I still think for the next 10, 15 years, reviews are going to be absolutely pivotal. Like both of us sit here with over 1,000 reviews each. Yeah. That buys us trust, doesn't it? You know, that customers that find us will have a higher level of trust in us innately than they will Dave the plumber that might have 25 on his Google and that's it. We're really harsh on Dave, by the way. Maybe we need to change the name. I've got a meeting with one of our clients, Dave, later actually.
The customer journey starts from a higher level from the get-go with that.
Yeah,
doesn't it? You're already ahead of the game. And again, I know, there's every chance the landscape will change again in the next 5-10 years in terms of reviews. However, reviews are now what word of mouth was 10-15 years ago. You know, where you would ask for a recommendation from someone in person. And again, the consistency is also key, both in how when people look at your platforms, they don't want to see 1,000 reviews from 10 years ago. It's like when you go to to stick with the restaurant analogy you've just been using. It's like when you go to a restaurant and they won like fucking, you know, restaurant of the year
2018.
Like, well, it's changed hands about 3 times since. Consistency is certainly key. Same with like social media, things like that. And even a lot of the platforms actually use the consistency of your reviews within the algorithm. And I know Checkatrade is one of those that does that. The more consistent you get your reviews, the better your ranking will be on the platform. You better not, rather than getting 50 reviews last month and 0 this month and then 50 next month, you better get in 25. Slow and steady with the uploads. But if you don't work on that, and we've got lads who've come into the alliance with business that have been going for decades and they've only got 100, 200 reviews. And that's all part of your positioning. And as we've just said, it's the start of the customer journey. Most companies will be assessed, and we spoke about this on the last episode, that there's certain things that you might be doing within your business that you think are the right thing, but without the customer journey being perfected, starting with the reviews and then from someone answering the phone, then you're kind of wasting your time. You might have your van wrapped and you might be doing your card drops and leaving your stickers on the boilers, etc., etc. But what's the point in leaving a sticker on the boiler when someone rings the number, nobody answers the fucking phone? or you know what I mean, or when you put a sticker on the boiler, but then when someone does a Google, the house changes hands, someone Google searches your business, and you don't have any online presence.
Yeah.
So,
And
you know what I mean?
with reviews comes expectation as well. So having a lot of reviews can also be a bit of a hindrance if you're not performing consistently. Like if I look online and like my company's like 1,200 plus, right? I will automatically have this level of expectation now higher. So if I am inconsistent, it shows that, doesn't it? Because they're like, well, gosh, we thought we were going with this reliable. The reviews say they do this, they do that, and all singing, all dancing. So that's where not doing it manually is a must, isn't it? There has to be systems, there has to be processes to make sure that we don't come in under their expectations of us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think ultimately, to try and draw this to a close, is that everything not everything, but the customer journey is, as time moves on, becoming more and more and more important within the package that you offer, and it's just not enough anymore to be shit out at your job. It's just not enough.
No.
Again, a lot of the lads in Alliance, when we've had our onboarding calls with them, the conversation is, and I just had one yesterday with one of a new sign-ups who spent the last few years, up until a few months ago, being hyper-focused on being the best tradesman that he can be in his industry. And fortunately, he's started to come to the realization on his own, with the help of the podcast, obviously, that there's no longer any need to be, you can be 80% quality of an engineer. There's no longer a need to push that extra 20% to try and be the best, absolutely the best tradesman in your area at your craft. There's more value to be brought by fixing the rest of the business, because I used that 50% thing before. Like, you will get a far more profit, time, growth in your business, everything that comes around with it, scaling, etc., by fixing the other things that are more important to people nowadays than being the absolute most amazing tradesman going.
Yeah, I agree. Couldn't have summarized it better myself. So on that note, hope you found value in the show. If you're considering what Off the Tools Alliance is and maybe want to learn a little bit more, just head over to the website, offthetools.co.uk. You can book a free call with myself or Andy. We're happy to have a chat, jump on a phone call, explain how and where we can actually inject value into the business. If you just like listening to the podcast, we thank you. Thank you very much for taking the time to spend with us. We'd love to hear from you. So please feel free to reach out. You can email either myself, Wayne at offthetools.co.uk, or Andy at offthetools.co.uk. You can obviously reach out on social media. Off the Tools has a community group. We have a school community as well. So if you just search Off the Tools on any of those, you can get involved for free. We really, really want to be helping as many people this year, next year, and into the future as possible. So if you could share this episode with any like-minded people that you know, friends, family, on your socials, that will mean the world to us. The more people that we can get to hear what we're talking about, what we're trying to help people with, the better. On that note, I'll see you on the next one.
Let's go.